Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt man! All right! Episode 210 of Shirt Show. We're talking with John from Avian Ink in Colorado. Let's go!
Hey there, baby bear.
Hey, it's been a bit.
I just got butterflies. It's been so long.
I know we took a little vacation.
Vacation from recording, but not like a vacation.
Yeah,
If you know what I mean. Like, well, maybe you did. I think you did go to Disney.
I went to Disney. Yeah.
I wasn't there.
No, in spirit you were.
Are you sure? Because I don't think I would be in spirit either. I don't really care for anything to do with Disney.
I had grumpy old man vibes a couple times, so you were there in spirit.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah, then I was there. Wow.
Hey, glad to be back in the saddle.
I'm standing, which, by the way, I was just listening to this podcast, not this podcast, but a podcast.
Yeah.
And I had never heard this before because I'm all about, standing. Like I don't want to sit. I want to stand.
It was a podcast about standing.
It happened to be about a company they started and they made the world's best chair, like, for sitting. That's not bad for your spine. And that's
For sitting. They made a chair for sitting.
Yeah. That makes sense. But it's not bad for your spine when you're sitting because a lot of times when you sit, you slouch. I was terrible. Like I had sitting posture was shit, mine was.
Mm-hmm.
But they made this chair that's supposed to be like super dope for your back. And this person, and I don't know, it's because obviously they have a chair company. They want to sell chairs. They said it's better than a standing desk because standing, the alternative, like standing, like I do most of the day, is actually worse for you. And also you can't like fully concentrate. So I find that to be true. When we have this show, when we're recording the show for 2 hours or whatever, and I'm standing the whole time, I notice that there comes, I don't know, maybe like an hour in, I'm like, I'm sick of standing here in the same spot. I have this pad or whatever, that I stand on that's comfy. But I notice that I'm distracted by the standing. I want to like lay down or sit, and so I'm going to look up this chair. It's probably like, $7 billion or something.
Yeah,
but,
it's probably like $700 chair.
But I'm going to look up to see how much it costs. And I want to potentially get it. And what they said was, here's what they said. They said, what you want to do is get this chair and then also stand, but find out this balance. So sit for 45 minutes, stand for 15, sit for maybe, where's it at for you? So always stand up every once in a while. So
that's what that's what it's at for me. Like I sit in the morning when I first get here, do like a quick email check, watch YouTube, whatever I'm going to do. And then as soon as I'm ready to be productive, I stand.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So like when I'm in the zone of like, I want to get shit done, I stand. I generally stand till lunch.
Wow.
And then I take lunch, I come back, I sit, I eat lunch at my desk sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, by like whatever 1:30 or something, I stand again.
Okay.
So it breaks the day up of like sitting first, standing while I'm trying to like focus. Cause I notice when I'm standing, I'm more apt to just like keep working. If I'm sitting, then I'll just like sit back, grab my phone, fuck around. But if I'm standing, I'm like in this zone.
Well, here's what you need to do is you need to share an MRI of your spine because I bet you it is sexy.
It's pretty bad.
No. It sounds like you are doing the right things. I bet I bet your discs are beautiful. Like they're probably.
You said that with a lisp.
Probably beautiful. Yeah. So I mean, well, how the hell have you been? It's been, I don't know, like a long time. Like you said. Mm-hmm.
Well, I did like 5 or 6 or whatever fucking weeks in a row of just travel.
Yeah.
And this week is my first week back of just like, I have nowhere to be.
And it feels 100.
Amazing.
Yeah. I was going to say, it probably feels like you like to say glorious.
Glorious. Yes. Like getting up in the morning, taking the kid. Well, this is also the kids' last week of school. So
what? They're still in school? What the hell?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Something is wrong.
No, mid-June to, and then they go back to school like mid-September.
New York is so weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing up there?
I don't know. Fucking is
Personally,
what it is.
I
What
think
I've done my whole life.
if you
I'm a little
ask
sweaty.
me, I am a grumpy old man, and I would tell you that kids should never be out of school. Like there should never be.
Well, my kids aren't going to be out of school because they're fucking boners and they're going to have to go to summer school.
What does that mean?
Because they're fucking, they hate school and they both are failing math and they both, funny thing is like, I'm trying to be a responsible parent and like get them to do their homework and all this other stuff. Well, anyway, it's the age old thing of like, you ask your kids, like, do you have homework? No, I don't have any homework, whatever. And then we get the progress report or whatever. And it says like, oh, your kid's like fucking barely passing this. They're failing this. They're passing fucking gym class and whatever else. My son failed home ec.
Oh, I loved that class.
How do you fail that class? You make like fucking cupcakes and you learn to sew.
We made cupcakes. Like, we made a pillow or something. It was fun.
Yeah, we made no-bake cookies, and I learned. I still to this day know how to sew, like tie a needle to sew something by hand from that class.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, fucking talked to I emailed all their teachers like 2 weeks ago or something and said, hey, I know my kids are fucking idiots. What assignments can you give me to where like we can work on it at home together and like like they can pass these classes or whatever. So all the teachers sent me all these assignments, whatever. So I've been like on my son's case to like get these assignments done. He's dragging ass so hard and we have fought back and forth to get these done. So anyway, my daughter didn't owe as much. She had like this one packet for like science or something. And she worked on it at my house this weekend. And I was like, all right, sit down, do this. I'm going to take a shower. When I get out, I'll help you. I get out and she's like, oh, I texted my friend and she already had this paper graded like at her house. So I just copied her answers. And I was like, in all honesty, I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. Like, as long as you hand it in and you pass this class and you don't have to go to summer school, I do not care. Like, I fucking don't care at all. That's a whole nother discussion about how I feel like school system is like fucked and kids just sit down and have to memorize things to do a test and it's not actually absorbing and whatever. So anyway, I fucking told my daughter the other sheet she had to do. I was like, all right, sit down and get this done. And she like sat down and did it or whatever. She's like, all right, I'm done. And I was like, all right, sweet. Like, cool. Let's staple this shit. Like put it with your stuff, hand it in to the teacher. I talked to her this morning and I was like, hey, did you get all your shit handed in to your science teacher? She's like, yeah, I handed it in to him. But the one sheet that I did, every answer was incorrect.
That you did?
The one that she did.
Oh.
The one that she did on her own. She said every answer was wrong. And I was like, she obviously just like guessed quickly to be like, I'm done with this assignment or whatever. And I'm like, after that this morning, I was like, I very much needed, and I texted you, like, I hope you have a great day. Cause like I was in a shit mood this morning and I was just like, while I was walking, I was like, it's their own fucking fault. Like it's their own, if they have to go to summer school, like, hopefully it changes them and lets them learn like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a fucking idiot in school all summer long.
Right.
Or all whatever.
Yeah. As you know, I grew up in the 80s. And so summers were like heaven. The last day of school, it was like the greatest day of my life. And I had what felt like then when you're like, hey, I'm like school's out for the summer. That seemed like 1,000 years, like you were just had forever to be off. And it was so fun. Like we had,
because we would sleep in, we would ride bikes, we'd fucking swim, we would do all this shit.
I was outside mostly. Yeah.
You know what they're going to be doing? They're going to be getting up bright and early, catching the bus, driving the bus to like some other fucking school district, doing math for 4 hours.
They won't do that again. Maybe this will be a good lesson, like you said. And I would say this to you, that I went through this with my son and I did homework with him. Like I didn't do it for him, but I did it with him. I was that dad that would do homework with him, and I went through all the grades again. And I thought to myself, man, if I could go back to school at my age now, I would like kill, you know what I'm saying? Like it would be so, I think we talked about this before.
I was in that where for like middle school and like the beginning of high school where I was like high honor roll. Like I was in like honor roll fucking study halls and I was like, oh, I was doing awesome. And then as soon as like cars and girls and like other things came along, it was like fucking nosedived. I was like skipping classes and everything else. So
that happens. That was
I can't be
corrupted.
that much of a dick to them of like, oh, fucking school rules, A+ all across the board, because that's not me and that's not going to be them. All I told them is like, and this is probably a bad parent thing, but I was just like, I don't care what you guys do as long as you pass and get the fuck out of there. Like,
Here's the
you
thing.
have to at least pass.
I watched the Nike movie last night, and Phil Knight, you know,
The
Nike,
one, the new one with like,
with Matt Damon
yeah,
and
yeah,
Ben Affleck. Yeah.
yeah.
And on his wall, he had rules, you know, like I have Andy's rules or whatever, wherever that went, it's gone. I don't know where it went, but you know, he had better rules. Like they're really good rules. And one of them is you're remembered for the rules you break. And
Yeah,
so
fuck
let
yeah.
your kids break the rules.
Yeah.
It's like Beavis and Butthead, you know, breaking the law.
I'm 100% all for like trades and hands-on things and whatever. And my kids are smart as fuck at those things. Like they're great at what they're just talented in certain ways. And I know that like all they need to do is find what they're passionate about, like with those things, and they'll excel and they'll do great.
Yeah,
like my
I
son
agree.
is a fucking wizard when it comes to the computer and like all that kind of stuff. And it's like, as soon as he finds what he wants to do with that world, he'll do amazing. I don't give a
And-
shit if he doesn't fucking excel at social studies. Like,
And also, he looks a little bit like Harry Potter. So he's not only a
does,
wizard,
yeah.
but he looks.
And he has a
actually looks the
scar.
part.
Yeah.
But I think I misquoted. I think the breaking the law was South Park, even though Beavis and Butthead broke the law quite often.
Beavis and Butthead's breaking the law was when he had the chainsaw and he fucking accidentally sawed off his finger because he was trying to kill whatever it was, like a cricket or something. And then he was like, breaking the law.
Oh, is that what it was? Beavis and Butthead?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
I was
Beavis and
right.
Butthead.
Because I all of a sudden thought it was South Park. I remember when he was speeding and he got pulled over. I don't know. You remember
I
that
don't
one?
watch South Park. I watched Beavis and Butthead all growing up as a child.
You don't
And
watch
that one is
South Park?
That one is burned. The only South Park I've ever watched is with you.
Okay. Well, that's weird.
Because they were trying to chainsaw this like cricket or something, and then they said, "Oh, saw it off your tweeter or whatever," and then he accidentally like cut his finger off, and then they were like shouting, breaking the law.
See, that's exactly what you need to do during the summer when you're off of school. That's the kind of shit we used to do.
Just watch Beavis and Butthead with my kids.
Chainsaw crickets and stuff. Like that's
Right.
this kind of things you got into, right?
Fucking break mailboxes.
Yeah, I mean, normal
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. I'm all for it. That's what I'll do with my kids. I'll let them skip summer school and we'll just like fucking break the law and vandalize things.
Yeah, show them the way.
Right, I'll show them how to properly not get caught doing things.
Exactly.
Right.
I like it.
Get them lockpick kits.
So, how's the shop?
Shop's pretty good. Things are flowing. Things are good. No real complaints. I have a bunch of work to do myself. I got a fucking list a mile long. Not necessarily because I've been gone, because I kind of been keeping up, but just like new project stuff and whatever. I've got 100,000 things to do. So plus I'm trying to like revamp our website right now, which is a whole nother thing.
Oh, why?
Just because it's old and
Just change the
needs
color. Whatever
redo.
color it is, change the color. There you go. New website.
Change the color.
Yeah, new color. It's fresh. Oh, this looks different. That's what I did.
It's just new information, adding all the stuff to like DTG or DTF and
yeah.
all those things.
I had a customer ask, like a decent sized account of ours, ask if we do like live printing. And I thought, no, we don't. We don't have the setup anymore. We sold it. But
They wanted heat press.
I was just going to say, like, I thought, well, you know how easy it would be to take our heat press and some DTF.
I'm doing my first heat press live print with Live Nation in New York City in like 2 weeks.
Hell yes. You don't like, why bring the whole setup and try to cure the shirts and everything? Let's just stamp it. I know it looks cooler when you're,
well, the thing is
more of like,
it's a pride event. So like, it's like all like
so many colors
and like 100 things. And basically I'm just going to bring like 4 people, 2 heat presses and just sit there and DTF all day. Yeah.
So I was going to propose the same thing. So our answer is going to be yes. And we're going to give it a shot, with because I mean, it just seems so much easier and faster and less messy. And you know, to load in. It's super simple setup, super simple. And
I still want a screen print live print, but like this is a thing where it's like I can just drive my car. I don't have to take like the van and trailer. I can just take heat presses, the shirts.
I feel it.
DTF. Call it
yeah.
They specifically asked for it for this one. It's not like something I pitched. So,
well, it makes total sense because of the color count and everything. So I get it. Here at our shop, we are going through like tidal waves of orders. And I hope everyone's feeling that out there in the shirt show nation that, you know, that it's picked up and it's busy because I don't know when this episode comes out, but normally it slows down around the 4th for us. And I think even we're going to take the like the 5th. I want to say the 4th is on a Thursday or something. And we're going to close the following day and just take a 4-day, I guess, make it a 4-day weekend.
Probably a good idea. Yeah.
You know, because it slows anyway. And we've been going so hard, you know, these past few weeks, and it's been difficult and challenging because a lot of times, like right now, people are taking some, you know, vacations and PTO. And so we have less people and more work, less people. That's hard. And so that put me on press, which aggravated my spinal situation. And so I've been off for a little while. I haven't been doing it. I got a little too, I don't know, excited about being able to do that again because I do like it. It's fun. But I shouldn't. And so I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's really mentally like, I hate it, you know, like you're the same way. I know you are. When there's work to be done, like you want to do your weight, like you want to pull your weight, if not more, like you want to do it all. Like, fuck it. You know, I used to be that way. And when you can't, it's like, oh my gosh, I hate nothing more than that. It's really bad.
Yeah.
And so I cry and I cry and I cry, but I got over it. I think man. I have to.
Good.
I think you told me being a pussy.
It's like the sit stand desk thing. You know, you got to do a little and then you got to back off and do a little and back off.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do a little. I don't know if I can do a little.
Well, do 50-50.
No, I don't think I has to be 0, 100. Like, I don't think I can be on press. So that's just life, you know, like there's worse things.
I don't think you should be on press anymore. You should go yell at the people on press.
Just stand there right next to it and yell.
You should do one of those. What are they called? They're the like the wraps things for children, and like have the press op like wrap you up or put you on a backpack so you can like ride with them while they're loading. You can just whisper in his ear and be like, "Hey, you're doing great." Stuff like that.
I'll try that. I think I will.
That one was crooked. Yes,
that is a brilliant idea. Thank you. I'll try that. I'll see what I'll pitch it to them.
We could do it.
Okay.
Hey, I want to take a second real quick before we do sponsors. One, to everyone who listens, love you, appreciate you. 2, if you could help us out, leave a review, share it on Instagram, something like a YouTube video. We were just talking yesterday about how we kind of want to change things up a little bit, maybe freshen things with some topics and whatnot. So if you have any guests that you think we should get or a topic you think we should cover, comment. Leave us a message, something. And that's it.
Don't get too excited though, because I don't think anybody really will. Whenever we ask, nobody really does anything. But I mean, I love everyone, but I don't really it feels like not a lot of love back, if that makes sense. But I'm not here, you know, like to get loved on. And so that's okay. But it does feel good. Like when I'm depressed about not being on press and then somebody.
We just got done saying you were crying. So.
If somebody would actually leave a review or a like or anything, it would make me feel better. So yeah, great. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Do it for Andy.
Do it for me.
Yeah.
Look, we all know that Frank and his team do screens the best, but today I want to talk about something else. This is not a sample.
You ordered some.
I ordered so
on my recommendation.
Sort of like
don't fucking.
I'm going to give you cred. I'm going to hold on. I saw that people were talking about this more and more now, and we gave it a shot. Not this brand, something else. we just didn't like it. But then they were talking about this. I'm like, we need to try this. And so I went to my source of all knowledge, Dylan Gilligan, from Upstate Merch and wherever the hell you are in New York. And you said, yeah, we like it. And so
we switched everything over to it. And
this came today. Well, you didn't tell me, which is weird because when we do things here that are revolutionary, I call you and I say, Dylan, here, look, we did this thing. You've got to do it.
Pretty sure that's exactly the conversation that we had.
Bullshit. So here it is. I took this upon myself and I called Frank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no. I texted him. I'm like, hey, print grip. And I ordered 14 for our 12 color. And we are going to run it over there. And it just came today. That's why I'm really excited. And yellow.
Okay, good, man. Yellow across the board. Yep. It's good stuff. Yep. We no longer are using spray anything. It's all water.
Frank is a good man, and he sent me this PDF of like how to use it, blah, 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 blah.
Applying it,
blah. Yeah. And I guess, people don't know, but he's got print grip. I didn't even know. And so Dylan, thank you for, after I called you, sharing your information.
And I sent
about
Frank at it, so give him a call.
Yeah. Is that
whatever? Fucking whatever. 100% told you to use it and told you to go to Frank.
Yeah. So,
but go ahead and say that you thought of it. That's cool.
I didn't think of it. My memory is like my hard drive's full. So however you remember it is, I'm sure is how it went down.
Mm-hmm.
But look, to find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFF.
Rank.com.
Or
greatfuckingscreens.com.
And Frank,
Great
it's
fucking
Wednesday.
Man. Should be greatfuckingman.com.
He is, but it is Wednesday and I received no phone call.
Maybe you should try calling him once in a while. You need to reciprocate the love a little bit.
You're right. It's my bad. It totally is. Cleaning screens is no fun, but EasyWay makes it way more funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier. Check them out at easyway.com. EasyWay.
It's the easiest fucking way. Also, I know it's whatever tied to EasyWay, but did you see Ron got his blue water today?
Oh, he has the blue water. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Delivered. Ready to fill it with EasyWay.
Where are we?
Graphic Source
is the source for production-ready digital art and remote art staffing. We use them every single day. Learn more at graphicssource.love.
Mm-hmm. Or 1-900hotstuff.com.
Yes, you can try that too.
Mm-hmm. Both work.
Dylan, choosing the right emulsion for your shop is complicated, and that's why we love Chromaline. Go to chromaline.com to watch Kev's vids or contact him on Instagram at the Emulsion Guru and get the answers you want and
love.
Everything's love today. I like it.
I'm all about the love. Yeah.
We're gonna stay with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. S and S. So you go ahead. Like you say the first letters.
S and S
has been our go-to shirt source since day one. They have 8 distribution centers, which allows them to ship to 41 states in one day. Get yourself an inside or outside rep or both at ssactivewear.com.
The best there is.
Can I tell you what there isn't? And can I tell you what a popular shirt is for ShirtCon right now? It's going to surprise you.
Sure.
Starts with a T. T.
Toltex?
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Which one?
People requesting it. I don't know.
Is it 0241? Maybe?
I don't know the numbers. It's Toltex though. It's like the base, it's like a comparable probably to.
I haven't used Toltex in a really long time. It used to be the HT 2002? Is that what it was? It was the Hot Topic shirt. It was what every band wanted to print on.
Okay.
That was like the last time I'd used Hot Topic
like a concert.
or Toltecs.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For some reason, people are requesting it. So look, there's ScreenPrint GPT. It's this thing that uses AI. If you've ever heard of it, it stands for Adobe Illustrator. And you definitely need to sign up for this free problem solver. And look, if you're not, you are missing out, which I like to call YAMO. YAMO. You know what that stands for, right? You are missing out. You are.
Yeah,
it's not like you
YAMO.
have a fear of it. It's like you are definitely missing out. You're like,
Yeah.
you're missing out.
The cool thing I like about the ScreenPrint GPT, and obviously I love Matt and his naked body, but is that he has a tools page on there now too, where he's like adding all these like super awesome custom tools that are free. Like he just made a fucking label, like a box label thing for putting all your information on so you can print a label for your box.
He's a god.
He is. He's a god among men.
He is.
Yeah.
And a goddess.
World's sexiest man alive in 2023 or 2. Can't remember.
I think it was 3. No, it was 3. Yeah.
Okay. Not
so
anymore
he's-
though. He let himself go. Yeah, he's fucked. Not
He
enough
used to do burpees every day, but he stopped.
Yeah,
And then you've got somebody to talk about.
I do. Today's episode is sponsored by the OG of the shirt game, American Apparel, the original go-to tee of the industry, the original premium tee that has inspired all others. The 2001 has been copied and ripped off so many times that I can't keep track anymore. AA is back. Make American Apparel your go-to for premium blanks.
Dude, you fucking write like a killer. I love it. You're a god.
Thanks. You too, bud.
Okay.
Hey,
I think it's time to party.
hey, what do we got on today, bud?
Dylan, today we are talking inks, I like what I did there, with John Magee from Avient or Avient, depending on what part of the world you're in.
John.
And he is located somewhere in South Park, Colorado.
He's in America.
No. Oh, yeah. I think he's maybe in the foothills is maybe more accurate description.
Myself? Yeah. Foothills.
I love how John is always making these videos talking about these super rad prints and everything. And today he's wearing a fucking baseball tee with black ink on it.
Oh, it's awesome. You can't go
I mean,
wrong.
it's still a sweet shirt. Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But that's the truth of a screen printer though, too, is like we all make all this rad shit and then we usually wear like blank t-shirts with nothing on it.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like being a painter. A painter wears like a white uniform. I usually wear black shirts and black jeans. I mean, you want to see if you got ink on you, I guess. I don't know. But, the irony of being a screen printer is I usually wear blank shirts because it's just my aesthetic.
Right.
I don't really like busy stuff, but I'll wear like heavy metal shirts all day long if it's good art.
Right. Exactly. I've been like really into bootlegs lately. Like I've been buying them like crazy. I feel like they're showing up like every other day. Like I have this one on right now, this Lord of the Rings one.
I like it.
But
I like
just,
the color.
but just, I don't know. It's my thing now. I just like, as long as it's on a 1717, I'm good. If it's a bootleg on a shitty other shirt, I don't buy it. But
I can't find a good shirt right now. I was talking to Brandon from Inferno Screen, like, what's your favorite shirt right now? And he kind of gave me some of his, but they're just inconsistent. Like with these Raglans, at least the sleeves are going to pop out to the side.
right. That's true.
Like I remember when I first started screen printing, getting 50/50s for the first time, like I fell in love with them because at the time in the 80s and early 90s, the collars would pop up on the cotton shirts after you wash them a couple of times and they had like this mock turtleneck. It's like, I hate that. The 50/50s don't do that. And so I printed a bunch of shitty 50/50s with faded ink.
Yeah.
Wrong ink for a long
John,
time.
did you print that shirt that you're wearing?
I didn't. A small print shop in Denver did. A friend of mine and I did an art series called The Devil's Own. It was all like motorcycle, skateboard related. I used to be really, involved in motorcycling most of my life. And it was just like a cool art series he did, photography and art.
I asked that because we always, whenever we have a design like that where it does this, it screws with your placement because normally you have your placement set, it burns in the screen so that when we lock in on the tri-lock with the, on the pallets, like it's there. But whenever it looks like this, we always have to, it always looks
Bump it
low.
up.
Yeah. So you like want to bump it up. You want to, but you're not sure if you should. And so you almost have to try it on. It's weird.
Yours
Those
looks
designs
good,
like
John.
that. It looks great. Yeah. But I see that and I get scared, I go, oh shit, that's one of those.
A lesson I learned in design so I learned how to operate Illustrator and Photoshop through a guy named Phil Dwyer, who's just kind of a mega mind in graphic design. But I would use the Illustrator to center different graphics, especially like heavy metal, like the kind of leather crinkle font type stuff. And it would always be off center. And he's like, you just have to go off your eye sometimes, like hold up the shirt and go off eye. So we would do that. And in my shop, I printed out all these banners that, we had really tall walls that hang up above the presses. And there was just a write up on how to place a pocket print for a man versus a woman. Like if you go down too low on a woman, it starts falling down too far. Good. Yeah. So, there was just all these little tips and tricks on the wall on how to visualize where to place the art on press, because we didn't use lasers that often. We would when we were fixing something, like had to be reprinted afterwards. Somebody left off a registration logo or something like that. We'd use the lasers for that, but everything else was kind of off by eye and off the palette.
Or our measurement is fingers down.
Yeah, fingers down as well. Yeah. That's we had to do. We did a lot of car club shirts, a lot of motorcycle club shirts, and there's like 5X shirts. A couple fingers down might not be enough on some of those shirts.
Yeah, big boy.
Have you ever had a customer say, hey, I want my print to be 4 inches down or whatever, and they tell you how far down on every single size, no matter what, and you're like, oh God. And then you see them and it's so bizarrely low on most, and then maybe too high on some. And so you're just like, but that's what they want. They want it lower, and you just do it. And it's almost against everything, when you're loading and things like that, but still.
We had it's like a car supply house. They wanted like racing stripes down the side of the shirt, and then their logo in there, and they had purple and yellow. So one thing, like at the time, I was like, I hate purple and yellow. Like purple never looks good on shirts, and then long stripes, like if it's not sewn on there, it's not going to look good. So I tried to talk them out of it. Then they didn't like it. Then they tried to sue me over it. And we actually took pictures of like each of my guys in the shop and my wife all wearing the shirt, showing like it looks different. A girl has boobs, the line goes this way. This guy's bigger and more, hourglass shape. The line doesn't look right. Like, I can't change your body, dude. Like we're printing for the shirt. I try to help the customer as much as you can.
I had a client in here the other day, and they had this whole long like PDF thing of like different versions of their logos, and they weren't that great. They were whatever. And then it was also just like different placements and on different color shirts and like all this stuff. I thought like a designer sent them a tech pack or something. It was like, hey, this is all the things. So here I am like fucking trashing the whole thing. I'm like, this one makes me want to chew my fingernails because like the placement is here and like the text is all different and you're using 3 different typeface, like all these different things. And then by the end, she was like, I made those. And I was like, oh, fuck. But I told her, I was like, the truth of it is like this, like, do you want it done right? Or do you want it just like, do you want to take like my opinion and 2 cents, which you definitely don't have to, of like someone who sees this shit every day? Or do you want me to just be that yes man that's like, you should run this. This is, you're spending the money. It is what it is. Like, I feel like you're saying, John, is they should take our advice of like, this is not going to look good. Like this 4-inch down placement's going to look like dog shit. Like I would almost fight them on it. I would be like, nah, dude, like this is not going to be good. Like I promised you, this is going to look terrible.
We had a code for different customers, and one was NTAC, no talent ass clown. And it was the person like, my graphic designer did this. Who's a graphic designer? My nephew. I'm like, oh, cool. So-and-so chiropractic clinic, put a bunch of halftones on something. It's going to be like a super small logo.
Right.
People that would trust us, we had a code for them and like, all right, this is going to go easy. And they would say like, what's best, just make it look good. Awesome. That's going to run through pretty easily. And it's helpful to have those tech packets. But like you said, when there's like one for every different size breakdown, every colorway, like, dude, this is going to take so long to process. Like they might end up in the NTAC category. Like this is going to go for most patient printer who's having a good day today. If it's Jay's having a hard time today, not going on Jay's press. So just kind of, picking the direction to go with that customer.
Well, it's just certain things like, they have the logo and it's like navy blue letter here, white here, and then a red because it's all, supposed to be red, white, and blue. And everything in the artboard is on white. And then they're like, okay, we want this on a black shirt. We want this on whatever. I'm like, that navy's going to get lost on a black shirt. There's no contrast. You're not going to be able to see it from 5 feet away. And they're like, oh, no, that's what we want. And I'm just like, I promise you right now, you are not going to want this. This is not going to look good. And again, it's like, I have to fight them on it and be like, dude, we need to put a white stroke around this, or we need to pick a different color or whatever, because you're going to come back to me 3 weeks later and be like, oh, nobody likes this because they can't read it or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I don't know where that line is of being a dickhead or just like trying to help them.
I had to defer to my wife and our sales team to have some communication, because we also did vehicle wraps. And on a vehicle wrap, to me, the goal is for the vehicle to communicate what you're advertising really quickly driving by. And we had a local internet radio station, sports station that it was a football player, but half of him was just, purple. The other half was like kind of a pinkish color. It looked like two people having like stand-up sex. I was like, dude, that's a terrible idea. And they have like papyrus font, and they're like, nobody can read papyrus font going down I-25. Like, you're just a waste of money. Like, trust me, let's go with some blockier letters. Let's make it easier on the reader. If it's a parked vehicle and you're looking at it sideways, great. But that's not the.
Yeah. My rule of thumb is, like, if you were in a crowd at like a show or a concert or something and you saw someone walk by with that shirt on, would you be able to tell what it is? Would you be able to recognize the logo? Can you read it? Whatever. And if you can't, then what are we doing? Yeah. Like, the whole point is for them to read it. Like, you don't want every shirt or every design for someone to have to stand a foot from you and just stare at your chest and to decipher what is on your shirt. It should be like quick and dirty of like, oh, I know that it's so-and-so plumbing, or it's whatever band or something. Like, it should be legible. And I feel like more often than not, they want to put the tiniest text in. Like, the left chest has to have all the information that the back has. And it's like, fucking why?
John, you are a huge inspiration for us.
You're going to say asshole.
John,
you are a huge asshole, and then we just end the Zoom.
You're a NTAC. Is that what you said? NTAC?
Yep.
No. You helped change our shop. You showed us the way with regards to printing white many years ago. And in fact, you were at our spring break a few months ago at M&R. And but most, and you're a big deal. Like, most people know who you are. They ran into you at conventions, and you have this amazing Instagram and all these things. But for those few people who do not know who you are, can you introduce yourself and what your role is, and how you actually say Avient or Avient, which one it is?
It's Avient. Think like aviation. So Avient's like a 3M or BASF company. They make a lot of other products for other applications. So it's a big company. The actual specialty ink side is actually a smaller part of it, and probably the only consumer product that we produce. But my name is John Magee. I've been printing since, I think, 1992. And what I do now for Avient is mostly education, support, R&D development, testing. But what I enjoy is, when I started my path in screen printing, there was no educational resource. So the internet was just maybe starting to happen. I wasn't aware of a lot of screen printing books. On my Instagram, I show a lot of the old screen printing books that I've accumulated, other people's screen printing books and their collections. But everything was trial and error. Like, other screen printers wouldn't talk to other screen printers. And I'm going to apologize to Kevin, Chromaline Kevin, right away. Like, I hate the phrase guru. Like, when people say guru, because like every time I met somebody as a guru, they're full of shit, except for Kevin. He's not. I love Kevin. Right. But in my town, there's like the local screen print guru. Like, all right, you got to go to the guru and ask him how to burn your screens better. And I go to this guy, and, I paid this guy one time to burn a screen. So I forgot, backtracking. When I started screen printing, there was like a dark room. You made a negative to, expose that to a positive. Then you expose a positive on a capillary film, and then expose that on a Newark unit, and then applied that film to your super loose, shitty wooden screen. So the capillary film built in my EOM. When I started my own shop, and I was like, I moved up to liquid emulsion. Like, I'm with the big boys now. I got blue emulsion. I'm coating my own screens. I lost track of EOM for years and just struggled with fibrillation and just getting good dot control. And so I go to this guy and paid him like $20 a screen to burn it, or, burn my screens for me. And I'm in this like little waiting room area, and he's, he gives me the whole like vibe, like, I'm hot shit. I did this, I did that. I'm rad. And in his little waiting room, there was like a little curtain, and I could look past the curtain. I look back there, and he's burned the screens on a box with a piece of plexiglass and a light bulb in there. Like, that's worse than what I've got. But I just learned to like really doubt these people that advertise themselves as gurus. But just every learning step most of my first mistakes were my biggest learning jumps. And I get to share that with people. And, when I first started this job, it was kind of overwhelming. Like, I I'd been in my own world for so long, thinking I was hot shit in my shop, but not really communicating with a lot of people, that I'm going out to like shop after shop, 6 shops a day, as a sales rep, and talking to people. And they're just like, at first they're staring at me weird. And that put me off. Like, why are you staring at me weird? And then, people were just super friendly. I liked that. But then like once a month, somebody would break down in tears. Like, this is really off-putting. It really makes me uncomfortable. But they were relieved to have somebody say, here's the answer. I'd walk into a shop and I was like, hey, you're using a tri-lock wrong. Like, let me show you something that'll make this a lot more consistent. And then this one broke down in tears. Like, this company wants me to do something like a, custom ink type program. They're adding more presses and it takes us 2 hours to set up a job. Like, dude, how do you make any money? It should take you 15 minutes or less to set up a job. So it became really rewarding, working as a sales rep and now working as an ADTS for Avient, just going out helping people. It's more fun when I see the smaller shops that I can change their day versus now my job is more going into like a Nike type printer or an Adidas printer. And they expect me, to spend time with them and work out all the problems. They're not going to be super appreciative. We're just going to have a good time. But if I get to walk into like a smaller mom and pop shop, I can just, in layman's terms, give them a lot of information in a short amount of time and feel like I really helped them. So it's the cool surprise I didn't expect with this job. But that's largely what I do. And I'm doing more seminars again. I did a few before COVID. Now it's picked back up. Everybody wants education again. It used to be not that many years back that distributors would say that nobody comes to our seminars. We can't get them to leave their shop and look for information. Right now, this generation of printers is desperate for information. And now we have the environment's changed so much where it's cool to share information. One of the first shops I called on was Steven at a small print shop. And I walked in one of his early versions of his shop, and above his dryer were all these T-shirts with different screen print shop names. So I was like, dude, how many DBAs do you have? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, how many names do you have for your company? He's like, oh no, those are different shops. We did like Instagram swaps. Like, really? You're talking to other shops? It's like, yeah. Like we all exchange information. Like, that's so different from my generation. Like, it was just, here's what I know, and I'm not going to tell you if you walk into my shop and say you're a screen printer, get the fuck out. Like, that's, we're not going to, I don't want you to see under the hood. Did that answer your question?
I think the thing is too, like this is my own personal experience and I might be off on this. It's funny. Me and Andy were talking about education before you hopped on, like real school education, but like my feel for like doing shirt show and going to trade shows and just visiting shops all the time, like that for me is the best education for this industry, is not necessarily listening to one guy. Like there might be someone like you, like super knowledgeable on a topic, and that's great. Like get whatever you can, but I feel like you need that like second, third, fourth, fifth opinion from like all these different people and printers to kind of take your own version of that. You know what I mean? I feel like there's so much art involved and technical stuff involved that it's like you still need to try things in your own shop because you got your own humidities, your own variables, and it's a very variable heavy industry.
It's all about variables. I mean, you can build 2 identical shops in the same town, have all the same products, and the prints will come out differently.
Yeah.
It can come down to the printer, it can come down to the environment of the shop or how the shop is built. I mean, it's in the seminar I did last week, the one I'm doing next week, the first thing we talk about is just all the variables, all the things that can go wrong. I mean, it's called screen printing. We print with their screens, but most people don't put a lot of attention into making their screens. People put a lot of money into their press, and I feel like I can make almost any press work, but I need to have a good exposure unit and a good dryer to turn out really good prints. And most shops have a really nice press and the wrong size dryer and a shitty fluorescent lamp, exposure unit. So you're limited by your tools.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that, even a sharp knife gets dull, and Dylan and I think a lot of people in the industry really are sort of what you do, I guess what you would call continuing education. I mean, if you don't, if you don't do that, if you don't go to trade shows, if you don't trade information with other people at different other shops, I guess, on the internet, whether it's Instagram or whatever, then I think you get dull. And I think it's important, it's our responsibility as leaders, as owners of these shops, if we care about our shops, that, to keep sharpening our skills, I guess.
For sure. As a business owner, I was self-employed for about 15 years and I didn't have a boss telling me what to do, or I've never had a mentor. I've always wanted one, I've looked for them, but I've never had like a real mentor to kind of show me where to go next. And I just kind of fumbled through a lot of things, but I started entering t-shirt contests just to find out, are we doing anything all right? Like, yeah, it exposes you to more customers. You get written up in a magazine and you might get this customer on the opposite side of the country, to add to your queue. But I was looking for validation and direction, and that in itself brought me to the trade shows that I wasn't going to at the time. And that just opened my world. I mean, I remember talking or going to Charlie Tabley's class for the first time, and it was such an eye opener. I mean, a lot of it I already knew, but I suspected to be true. But then there was somebody to verify, yes, it's true. Here's how you explain it. Here's the words we use, and here's some better products. But, back to your point, Dylan, like you've got to talk to a lot of people and deduce what you feel is best for your shop. It's just like looking at the news. You can't look at one news outlet. On my phone, I've got like 4 different news outlets from every different angle. And it's up to me to figure out like, okay, where's the truth in this?
See, there's your mistake. There's your mistake. You should just go to TikTok. I mean, why do you have so many news outlets?
YouTube.
It's like my mom who sits there and watches Fox News all day long. And then that's just the way it is. That's the world.
And you can't argue with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So your this Instagram you have, traveling screen printer, how'd you like start that? What made you think to start that? And then can you share one of your recent posts you talked about dye migration, like a little quick tip? I guess it's a 2-part question, if you would do that for us.
Sure. Okay, so first part, it's kind of funny. So I started the traveling screen printer back in December. And it's kind of out of, like, I'm a spiteful guy sometimes. I try to be a better person, but I'm still kind of spiteful. What originally had happened was when I started with Rutland Group, when it was Union, Rutland, QCM, I was the youngest person on the team at the time, and I was in my 40s, I think. We weren't doing anything on social media. They had tried Facebook and nothing had really worked there. And at the time, like, Facebook's more for your family and friends to keep track of your friends that are just spread around the globe. But Instagram to me was more of a personal one-on-one conversation. And I tried to explain that and it kind of fell on deaf ears. And like throughout my whole career, like I've been getting away with murder. I don't know when, like it's starting to clamp down, but I just started, what happened was I saw somebody show an Instagram video where they're promoting laser temp probes and they're showing it shooting into the dryer, and it's an infrared dryer and an infrared laser, and it's tracking moving target, and it's just the worst tool for that job. It's not the right tool. An Atkins probe is the right tool for that. So I was working with a distributor that week, and I was like, hey, you guys need to start an Instagram and promote your Atkins probes and show them this is the right way to profile your dryer. And they're like, well, John, that's a good idea, but we're never going to be able to get that to happen. So I was like, all right, well, cool. I'm going to, like, as I was talking, it's like, all right, I'm making an Instagram account for Union Inc., Union_Inc. And then I started putting a little bits of information on there, sharing what I was doing on the road, whether it was showing cool prints, little educational bits, or even just like what I did in my off time, like going to a screen printer shop afterwards when we play music or we skateboard. But that went okay for a while. And then Poly One bought us. And when the first year that Poly One and our sales Rutland Group had shown it at ISS Long Beach, on the way back to the airport, I'm driving back with like some of our sales team and our boss is driving the car. And, he's been meeting with Poly One the whole time. I've been kind of out of the conversation. He goes, so John, tell me about Instagram. I was like, oh, what do you need to know? He goes, well, what do I need to know? I was like, well, we always have more followers than our competitor. And he's like, all right, that's good. And he just left it at that. It's like, all right, we're good. We're good from here. So it continued on for another couple of years. And then the people from inside Poly One, not so much in the specialty inks division, but just like more corporate, were like, hey, we'd like to communicate with you more on social media. We'd like to talk to you about some changes. And right away, I was like, well, I'm punk rock. Don't tell me what to do. This is my conversation directly with screen printers. But it slowly started to become more formalized, and they wanted to have like posts scheduled at a month in advance, and run by legal. And with the first conversations that I had that was kind of funny was we had to sit down at the next year at Impressions Long Beach, and I meet with a social media person. I don't think I've ever seen them since. Like, yeah, so we wanted to suggest some edits. Like, all right, great. I'm thinking about like where I swore in one of the posts or something, something bad. And they just show, it was a picture of, I took a picture out of the plane looking down at Yellowstone Park, leaving Montana. It was my first time working in Montana. And the caption just said, Montana, I didn't know, I will be back. And so I'm like, well, what's wrong with that? I was like, well, we provide a lot of support. So could you change it to we will be back? I'm like, that's what you want to, that's what you're splitting hairs on. So this last year, A new person was put in charge of that, and in charge of the social media. And then, kind of gave this spreadsheet, like, here's how we'd like to do this, this, and this. And like, all right, I'm not interested anymore. Like, you guys take this, you handle it. And they weren't combative about it. Like, I still have access to those accounts, and I'm sure they'd be happy if I posted on those. But it didn't feel like a conversation like we're having right now.
It's not what it's meant for. It's not.
Right.
It's meant for you to actually be like a social human being and a real person. Yeah.
Like, do you follow brands that just show commercials over and over again? Like, I get rid of those.
Exactly.
So part of it was me being kind of spiteful. Like, you won't tell me what to do. I'll start my own Instagram and leave. And then the other part was there's all these new influencers and consultants. And there's so many consultants above a certain age that are real consultants that give you like a front to back experience. So it's not just, I'm a good press operator, I can tell you how to print better. I feel like a consultant needs to tell you how to run your business better, how to optimize your screen room, how to optimize your art. So I've never sold myself as a consultant. I mean, if you look at like Ryan Kasparian, he's probably the youngest consultant that I feel like is a front to back, like gives you a dashboard to work with, gives you manuals on how to manage your staff. So there was a lot of this that kind of peaked right around Print United this last year in Atlanta. And I was just like, well, who are all these new people that, like, you've been printing for a couple of weeks and now you're the master of puff? Like, oh, I remember talking to you on the phone for an hour and then you made a post about it the next day. Like, why don't you guys send people our way and talk to like Ray Smith, who's been printing for decades, guys that have been fumbling our way through this for just decades at this point. So again, spiteful, but I started the trial screen printer, and it was just meant to be, maybe not so brand specific, but just talk about, I'm into old motorcycles and old cars. Why wouldn't I be into old presses? And that was something I was showing the Union Ink Instagram was, here's a cool old presses of precision oval. Like, it's just I love those machines for some reason. They're awful machines.
It's a death machine.
It totally is. It'll take your hip out.
I had one. Yeah.
Did you? That's so bad. There's twice I've almost bought one just to have it. But I didn't.
It was literally a murder machine. Like, it would cut you in half.
And that's appealing to me. Like, like a motorcycle. Uh-huh. But so I started showing pictures of those, showing pictures of books from my collection. As people were retiring out through COVID, they started sending me their old books. And then I've got Lon Winters, 20 minutes in one direction from me, Charlie Tabley, 20 minutes the other direction from me, seeing their resources and sharing their resources. And I just wanted to remind people, like, all right, there's a bunch of flash in the pan dudes that are really good at social media, but not a lot of experience. Did you know about Lon Winters? Did you know about Mark Coudray? Did you know about these people who designed and built everything that we use? I mean, the CMYK inks, the inks that we offer, those color profiles, those are built by Mark Coudray. Those are relationships with them. A lot of the presses that we've been using, people like Lon Winters and Charlie Tabley consulted on the design of those presses. So I wanted people to remember there's these guys that have already sorted these things out. They're just giants in this industry that we stand on their shoulders. And here's a cool press. And here's a cool print that Dominic did at Superior Ink. And, here's how you do puff prints. It keeps me occupied when I'm in the hotel room or at the airport. Like, they're not good posts. I know that. I don't edit anything.
No, they are good posts, and they're that way because it's just raw and you.
Yeah, it's authentic.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm sure there's a lot of graphic designers that look at like, this is shit. Like,
fuck those people.
No.
Straight up, fuck those people. I don't care at all. I think that's the problem. Is kind of like what you're saying too. Is there's so many just like overproduced people that just want to make content, not necessarily of what the content is. Like, they just want to be like, I made a video today, or I have 5 videos coming out this week, or whatever. And it's not like, okay, I actually deep dove into this thing or whatever. It's always like a flashy, oh, I did this thing and I made, this is how to make your shop $1 million today or whatever. And it's like, dude, stop.
Monster.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about your guys' event. The Shirt Show Spring Break is my favorite event I've ever been to. I told you guys that then.
Oh, yeah.
I really, it just wasn't hokey. It was no pressure. I love the idea of not having any sales reps there. I can't believe M&R went for that, but it was just fun and comfortable. You weren't trying to hide the fact that this is also just a really big bro down networking event. Let's get to know, each other in the industry, lean on each other when we need each other, and then talk about, how to optimize things on press. It was just the perfect event to me. Like, you could do that for a couple of days.
And it had hot dogs.
And hot dogs. I mean, yeah. How can you go wrong with that?
I know. Icing on the cake.
I think that's just the truth of it is. I mean, that just might be us or whatever, but I think there's a lot of people out there that just want real information. They don't want the commercial fluff or the hype machine thing constantly. It's like, dude, I just want to fucking figure out how to print the best white, like, or at least step up my white game that I already have. Like, I don't need all this sales pitch, or you can only do this on this press, or you can only do this on whatever. It's like, can you just be a real dude and tell me like what you know from experience of all this time? That's all I'm looking for. That's all I want. I want to travel to other shops, hang out with the real people, see real life situations and whatever. It's like, more often than not, you end up with like a sales rep from a company, and it's just like, oh, well, you have to use this kind of thing, or you're supposed to cure it at this temperature and do this thing. And it's like, that's not real life. Like, I want the real life printer being like, yeah, this is what I did, and this is how I did it, and I can actually only get this many prints out of this, and so on. It's like, I'm just so over the fucking hype and fluff of everything. I want like real life shit.
I had a shop in the 90s called Treehouse Screen Printing, and then I had a shop here in Colorado called Airship Printing. And I had to build a reception desk just to keep the sales reps from walking straight into my office and like, here's the new thing I'm supposed to show you this week that my sales manager was making me push on you. I had my sales staff stopping people at the door, and the only two people that were allowed to come through the back door and talk to me directly were the Union Ink rep and the Saudi rep. Those guys spoke to me on a chemistry level, like, here's why Plastic Charge does this. Here's how this works with this. Yes, you can do this with any plastic solid. It's not specific to this one brand. You know, I like that straight conversation. Like, I'm a little terrified doing this podcast because I don't want to do anything to get myself fired from Avient. You know, I don't want to reveal what we're doing. I don't want to say anything that's off brand, but at a risk of revealing too much, I cover the tech emails and the tech calls most of the time. Myself, Ray, and like 7 other people also help with that. But if you call and, you know, like Hawaii, it's hard to get a complete ink system there, or just you get what you can get in Hawaii. It's just not a big market. And a guy calls like, hey man, so I've actually got this brand of white, and then I've got your colors. Will this work with this? And I need to use this Hugger catalyst. I'll answer it. I'm not going to, you know, shoot you down like, no, you should only use, you know, Union Ink on this. It's, you know, I feel like if I can keep you running and help you make money, then you're going to come back to us just by that faith alone, not by constantly drilling the brand in your head over and over again. And I'll probably get an email about this later, like, you need to drill the brand in, you know?
Yeah, but the thing is, the truth of behind that is it's back to like you saying, you being authentic on your Instagram and just talking about flying over a state and I'll be back, having them wanting to tweak that. It's kind of the same thing. Like if you were, say you were an M&R rep and you went to a shop to talk to someone new or whatever, and say you walked in and they were working on their rock press or their Anatol or whatever, and they were actually fixing it or trying to tweak something, and you as an M&R rep knew how to fix that or make that work, and you fixed their press with them right then and there, I guarantee that person's going to come to you next time with a question, or maybe even to buy their next press from you, because you're just a good stand-up dude that knows about printing and you want to help them regardless. You shouldn't walk in and be like, well, if you had an M&R press, it wouldn't be broke down right now. It'd be like, right. Dude, don't be an asshole. Like, fucking be just a good dude. Like you're saying, like if someone had a different brand white and whatever, and was just like, if you walked in there and were like, yeah, we could fix this, maybe next time they go to buy white, they buy something from you instead of the other thing, just because they know they can lean on you for service and a question.
Yeah. I mean, we're all trying to figure out who we can trust as business owners or whatever you're doing in your life. And if that guy comes off corny, you're like right away, you start throwing up that shield like, okay, I can only trust this guy so much. But I'll tell people when it's in regards to our brands, like I've always rooted for the underdog. I come from like post-hardcore, like DIY punk rock, like building our stage pieces to making our own records, that type of background where I'm always rooting for the guy who started his shop in his garage. Somebody asked recently, like, why is plastic so big in the U.S. where water-based is big in other parts of the world? It's because in this country, this is a country where you can start a company in your garage or in your basement and become a big shop. So I lost my point where I was going with that. I sidetrack a lot. I apologize. With trying to figure out who you can trust.
This isn't live, so it's fine.
Yeah, good. So if somebody's, they're asking me what my favorite white is, I think that was a conversation we had years ago. You're like, so what's the best white? I'm like, There isn't a best white. It's how you print that white. How did you optimize for that white? But you start asking me, coming down to brands, like, all right, so I've always been the underdog or the rooting for the underdog guy. I've always been like this, DIY type guy. But if I'm printing a shirt for you and I want it to look the best, it possibly can, I'm going to use the best ingredients. So I would go to an Avient brand that has ink that's tested forward and back, that's QC'd forward and back, that has a lot of chemists working on it, versus a company that's probably buying the formulas overseas and just mixing it week after week in their facility here in the US, and they don't have the resources to QC it. I mean, for me, coming from my culture, it's weird to work with a company like Avient who has all these resources, but at the same time, like, that means my product's going to come out that much easier. I mean, I just ordered a starter for my bus today. There was a $99 starter, there was a $125 starter, and there was a German-made Bosch $200 or $299 starter that's going to go in easier. It's going to work more flawlessly. It has higher torque. I spent the better money just to have less issues, because I want there's going to be other problems on that bus. This one will be sorted when I spend that $300. Mm-hmm. So
which is kind of the same reason why we tell people to just go to GSF, go to Frank, and get the best screens. Like, you want to save money on screens, but you want the best prints, and it's why are you jumping over that to save a couple dollars when it's actually going to save you a ton of money having the right tools the first time?
Look at what you're getting. I was traveling shops in Southern California last week after doing a seminar, and we had a scenario where the person could buy from us, or not from us, but from the person I'm working with, for about 10% more, versus another guy who's just ready to lowball them and just try to beat them out. I'm like, all right, but does that guy offer you support? You have the three of us. You have your distributor here, your Avient local rep, and myself, and our whole team to call anytime to help you through this. Mm-hmm. Is that guy offering you that for that 10% less? I mean, you've got to choose if you're spending good money or just trying to get a deal.
The same goes for our shops. I mean, when somebody comes in here and they're like, oh, well, so-and-so does it for 50 cents less. And we say that we think the same things that you're just saying right now. Well, if something goes wrong, will they support it? You know what I'm saying? Or are they using the best inks? Or is that shirt dry? Who knows? Like, we don't say those things, but I know those things, and so that's why we don't match pricing unless we're desperate for super slow. And maybe January 5th, we'll probably say, sure. But, most of the time of the year, 90 whatever % of the year, we're not matching prices like that, because we know that this is how we do it. And so I totally get that. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can order parts I've got a couple of project Volkswagens, and I can order some parts on Amazon, get them dirt cheap, not going to get any support. But I've got the local VW shops that have been around for 50 years. I pay more there, but I can ask, like, hey, am I getting the right part that's making this sound? Am I going the right direction? It's the same for screen printing. I mean, and I love distributors going to answer questions. There's a distributor in Arizona that I called years ago, AST. I was upset about not being able to find the ink I wanted here locally in Colorado, so I started looking for other union dealers. And I called there, and the first person, I'm ready to explain to the person who doesn't know screen printing what I'm looking for and to not give me the wrong product. But this person right away knew what I was talking about. And every person there at AST knew the product line, and they knew what I was talking about. I didn't have to explain, right? It's not called paint. It's this stuff called ink. It goes on the garment. I know you guys also sell pinstriping paints. I need the right product. There's so much to be said for having great support through a distributor, through a supplier, or a manufacturer.
Hey, can we talk about self-advocacy for a minute? Because I've been going through this. I've been going through this quite a bit for the past maybe month. And I think that if I didn't have this shop, I wouldn't be as good at advocating for myself, because I think we have to. I think that's something that we learn as entrepreneurs or shop owners. And I'm talking about the medical field in particular, because I've never really been through it like I have in the past year, and especially during the past 30 days. And I find that, how do I put this? That doctors, they when they start out, they take a Hippocratic oath, and they care, but then they get caught up in this system, what is medicine today. And I don't want to say they don't care, but it's like an assembly line almost. And
customers every day.
You what?
They've got to see customers every day when it breaks down, comes down to it.
They do. And this last one, or not last one, but a few appointments I had to go, maybe 2 weeks ago, I went in and I explained my situation, and she was nice and she tried to go through some things, but the very first thing she wanted to do was prescribe me some Valium. And I'm like, wait, no, that's not going to fix. Yeah. You know what? Tonight I'll go home and I'll feel good. I will, but that's not fixing my problem right now. And so I didn't take it. I didn't want that prescription. First of all, it's a benzo and I don't want to deal with that. And I said, hey, do you have anything else to so I can chill out a little bit while I'm going through this? And then
she just hands you some weed.
Yeah. Basically, weed is better than half of, or most of, what they're going to prescribe you. But the thing is that I really didn't know this. I've heard people talk about it and discuss it before, but I'm experiencing it firsthand. And you're alone, very much alone. You have to fight for your appointment. You have to fight while you're in that appointment for the answer, because you have 15 minutes, basically. That's your slot. Like, they give you a 15-minute deal. And then at 14 minutes, 59 seconds, they're like, hey, I've basically got 10 more seconds, then they walk out. And it's frustrating, and because I have a real issue. And today was a great day. And I advocated for myself, and I went into my first appointment. I had appointment 8:30, and I just broke it down. And I said, here's what I need. I need help from you. It's my primary, which is a little different than a specialist and stuff like that. But he was like, okay, let's try this. And so I think that self-advocacy, we learn from our shop, and it helps us in life, but it also applies to our shop, vice versa. You know what I mean? I think that you have to advocate for your own shop even a lot of times, and fight for your own shop. And so I just wondered what your opinions were on that. I know, John, you went through spinal issues, cervical issues, and have some artificial discs and everything, and you're all better now, which is amazing. We talk a lot about that, but it's mentally and physically challenging, and I'm exhausted. I'm standing here today. I got 6 hours of sleep somehow. Luckily, I took some melatonin, just one milligram last night. But it's yeah. Basically, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. I told you when I was going through my issue, I went to the hospitals right down the road from me, and I realized this hospital is like an outlet mall for one-star, healthcare. You go there, and everybody, like the doctors and nurses, are all very attractive, and that was the first thing that started. That was a red flag for me.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. Well, I started looking at they're very attractive, guys and girls working. They're very young, and I look at their diplomas, and I'm recognizing some of these colleges from growing up in
Phoenix Online.
What's that?
Phoenix Online.
No. These colleges like the rich kids go to. And I kind of figured out, I'm getting terrible service here. These are the rich kids who could just wanted to come to Colorado. They probably weren't the smartest in their class. They just are rich kids that can move out here. So then I went to the university healthcare instead. It was like an episode of ER. I never experienced anything like it before. Like the medical care is so much better there. But then I went to see a doctor the other day in place of my regular primary care doctor. He's just booked up. And this guy's a new guy. And right away, I was thinking about it last night. I was like, all right, this guy doesn't hear me. He doesn't hear the patient. He's just spouting things off the top of his head. He's a good robot. I mean, he knows a lot of information. He can diagnose things well, but he's not hearing me and hearing that I don't want to take these other medications. But on the shop side of it, I had to learn to do the same thing. So, sometimes, and I love our distributors. We rely on our distributors almost completely to inventory our product, to be that first line of support, but they don't always have the best person who specializes in screen printing. They may specialize in DTF or embroidery, and sometimes you have to work past them, and they don't want to let you past, and you have to kind of put your foot on the brake and listen, we're not speaking the same language. Put me in touch with whoever the rep is for this. And that was something that I did with all of my distributors here. After they brought a rep by the first time, I was like, all right, listen, whenever you have a rep with you, an emulsion rep, an ink rep, a machine, whoever it is, even if it's something I don't use, bring them by my shop. If I hear that you're in town and you didn't bring them by my shop, we're going to have words. And I used to do business very aggressively. And that's something I would change going forward. Like I used to be that owner that would try to beat you up for free samples and just shake my fist and swear at you. I want things my way. You got to listen to me. I'm important too. And now I realize like having a more professional, friendly discussion is much more productive. But I definitely had to advocate for myself and saying like, listen, you don't fully comprehend what I'm trying to explain to you. I need to speak to the manufacturer. Don't roadblock me. You're still going to get your commission. I will still keep you involved. At the time, there was a habit of some of these suppliers, once they got your contact, they would go around the distributor. And this was happening in a press purchase at one point. It's like, nope, you help me find the air compressor. You help me find the RIP software. I'm sticking with you. You're worth the extra percentage or whatever I'm going to save if I went directly to the manufacturer. But I guess that's the challenge of being an owner, is that you have to be that kind of person that can not get bullied into situations or into agreeing that a product's right for you when it's not. I mean, every company's going to come through with their new tech sheet. Like, isn't this the best, brightest thing that you've seen this week, John? Like, you should buy this. Like, well, why? What's the ROI on this? I don't make decisions based off of hype and pep rallies. Show me how long it's going to take me to pay this off and where my profit's going to come from. But it took me a while to figure that out.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about before, where, yeah, you're advocating for yourself, but you're also putting in the work to do the research. Like, you can't just go to your rep and be like, what's the best, whatever. And I feel like a lot of times they're just going to sell you what they're supposed to be pushing right now. You know what I mean? It's like, I actually need the best of this or this. And that's where I say it comes back to talking to 14 other shops or, watching 100 YouTube videos or whatever it is. It's like you get the amalgamation of like all this information from all these people, and then you can make your own choice based on, well, this guy tried this and he says it's the best new ink ever. And then watch another video where this guy made a bunch of shitty prints with it. And it's like, all right, well, what's the difference here? And then it's like, okay, I watched 10 videos on this and most of them said it was cool, but a lot of them said it doesn't really work in like hot climates with zero humidity or whatever. And it's like all these different variables. I feel like you just need to fucking do the research. And it's kind of like Andy saying, going to the doctor and the first thing of them walking in is being like, oh, you need to take this. It's like, well, why? Like, how did you come to that conclusion? And it's like, I also read, I like going into the doctor, which I rarely ever go to, with like, I did some reading on this, or, even if it's WebMD or whatever, it's like, well, I think I, have this, or this is why I think I have this, and so on, and not just be like, take 100% their word for it. So I think with screen printing, it's the same thing as like, even with my staff, like having a sales meeting or something and going over something, it's like, I try to research these things before I bring it to them. I don't want to just be like, I think we should just do this. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
I want to have some background on it first.
I've learned in the doctor situations, always record your conversation with the doctor so you can go back and see what you missed or see what you said, or see what you learn is that you weren't advocating for yourself enough, or you weren't explaining what was going wrong with you. But as a shop owner, if you don't have time to test products, I guess you just don't have time to grow or to be sustainable. It comes down to what works for shop A may not always work for shop B. And sometimes you kind of have to lean on the sales rep, like, hey, a quart's not really going to tell me enough about this ink. Maybe I need a gallon to run this and really understand it forward and backwards. I've got to optimize on press to make sure I'm doing the best print with that. I used to compare inks by running ink A and ink B in the same screen. So that to me, it was having all the same controls in place, like same angles, same squeegee, same pressure, but not every ink responds that way. Some inks need less pressure to have more opacity. Some inks need a softer squeegee to control fibrillation. So you have to have them as separate heads and optimize each one and spend the time to make sure, like, is this the best print I can get out of this ink? Am I happy with that? Okay, does it make sense for me financially? Is this going to save me in the long run if the dye doesn't sublimate 72 hours later and the customer's not coming back to me yelling about the product? Or even coming down to an Atkins probe. I meet so many people that say, I don't have $400 to buy an Atkins probe. Well, how many hoodies do you have to ruin to pay for that?
Oh, for sure. And that goes so quick.
Yeah. And then if you don't have time to run an Atkins probe in the morning, like, well, I bet you don't have the time to reprint that job when it migrates later, or if it falls out of the garment. Like, you've got to think smart. You've got to think further ahead. And there's so many things in this industry that seem to make sense logically. Like, it would seem to make sense to print with harder squeegee, with more pressure, to get a better detail of a dot, but you're forgetting that your substrate rebounds and it's got fibers that pop up. And you really just want to print the ink on top of that garment and not into the garment, allowing the dye to overwhelm the dye block chemistry in that ink. there's another step to it. So there's so many people that are attracted to our industry because we all saw it the first time. Like, I get that. I understand how that works. I can do something with this. And then you really get into it. And somebody starts asking for like a full color, like photorealistic job. Like, I'm in over my head. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Everything I'm doing wrong is wrong. Like I share a story. Like I mentioned, I learned a lot of things the hard way. And I've told this story to lots of people. I probably told you guys this story. But when I first bought my first screen printing setup, a band I knew right away wanted to order shirts. And they have an iconic logo. They're pretty prolific now. And they've been doing the same logo for like 30 years. They were doing their first European tour. So I printed, loads of shirts for them with regular black on green, black on heather gray, white on black. But they wanted to do a metallic silver for the European tour. So I ran it like I ran any other ink. And I get a call from them, on the road, like, hey, people are showing up in Germany with shirts they bought in the UK and the ink fell out. I'm like, what the hell went wrong? Like, and I had to it took me a while to realize that the metallic ink was reflective, and I had a infrared dryer. The infrared heat is the bandwidth of light that you
directly
can't
down
off of it. So it wasn't curing through. It was curing the top part of the film, but wasn't curing through the shirt. And then the funny part of this is that later when I met my wife on tour, I was like on a 2-month tour, but we did 2 nights at the House of Blues and 2 nights at the Metro in Chicago. And a friend of mine brought her to the show. And like we started hanging out night to night and like figuring out all the people we knew in common. Like we knew everybody. And it turned out she had been engaged to the bass player from that band. So she's like, trying to figure out like where we fit in because we've been to the same weddings. We almost met like 2 or 3 times before. And she's like, so are you Land Rover John? Because on my first shop, I restored old Land Rovers and I printed T-shirts in it. And I'm like, yeah, Land Rover John. And she goes, did you print? It's like, I printed the fucking shirts so the ink fell out. Yeah. I printed those shirts in Europe.
It'll follow you forever.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's been 30 something years, but now I try to make it comical. I learned that lesson. I learned not to use not to use packing tape to tape your screens because the adhesive behind, if it's not a latex based adhesive, it's going to catalyze the ink. You start getting little boogers in your ink. It starts sort of, curing the ink. I learned not to use wooden stir sticks in my ink because it starts wicking out the plasticizer. You can see it start creeping up and your ink becomes cakey.
That was me. I used to do that. Like I used to go to Home Depot and take they used to have them right on the counter. I'd grab a whole.
I've never used wood to stir, but what was the reason why not to use wood?
It wicks out. If you use cardboard, paper, or wood, setting your ink, it'll start to wick out the plasticizer. And that make your ink thicker. And it's not, when you're curing a plastic ink, it's a thermoset. So you have to hit a certain amount of time at a certain temperature, just like if you're cooking a turkey, to get to that point where the plasticizer and resin start to swell together and complete that PVC film. Otherwise, you have an incomplete cure there and it's going to wash off or degrade over time. If that plasticizer balance is upset, you're more likely to have a failure, but also your ink's not going to print that well. It's going to become more cakey over time. Just one, I fell down so many times before I could even crawl to even start thinking about running.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you kind of just threw in a couple hacks, but I wanted to ask you, one of the things I asked on the Discord the other day was like what we should talk about in the show is people were like, we need to bring back shop hacks. And I feel like you're the perfect guy to introduce shop hacks again. And you just gave like 3, but do you have 1 or 2 that are like, holy shit, why do people not do this? Or something I've learned from another shop, or just any kind of shop hack that you might be your favorite?
I mean, it's not even a shop hack, but if you have a metal halide exposure
or
unit,
science.
Yeah. If you have a metal halide exposure unit, you should be doing an exposure calculator at least every 2 or 3 months. That bulb is aging over time. The shop hack to that would be, and I hope it doesn't get anybody upset with me, is if you buy that bulb, if you're a 40-hour-a-week shop and that machine's running all the time, my shop, we're going through 2 bulbs a year. I think it was, every 6 months. Some shops are on 1 bulb a year. As that bulb ages, it's a vacuum tube. It's heating up and cooling. That little ceramic plug is moving back and forth. Air starts to get in there, and you start to see like a white powder. Then you start seeing a black oxidation in there as well. And you're not getting that full bandwidth of light to have the right UVA and UVB to adhere your coats of emulsion. And no matter how many coats of emulsion you're coating on the screen, they're going to start falling off in the rinse and the washout booth. So you need to keep an eye on are you using the right amount of light units, or is that bulb just done? The hack is, if you Google metal halide and the number on that bulb, usually a place in Texas, I think, shows up where you can get the bulb for like $100 versus $400 from time to time. The dumb stuff is clean your screen frames before you put them on a vacuum table, regardless of what the light source is. If you're getting ink on your vacuum blanket, it's going to start tearing it down. You have to hold your hand on there to suck it down. You do all these little stupid things.
we used to put a black trash bag on against it so that we could change that bag out once a week. So if there was any little bit of ink on the frame, it wasn't hitting the neoprene or whatever. It was just like on the bag.
But yeah, your screen or your frame's clean. I mean, it's got a cumulative effect across your shop. Like you're not accidentally getting ink on, you're not accidentally getting ink on your shirts or your press. There was something else that went along with that.
This was years ago. We don't do that anymore. But
I'm trying to think of other things. The one that drives me crazy. As soon as your screens come off your press, scrape the ink right away and just give it a quick, clean the image area with your press wash. I bought one bucket of haze remover ever. I used it. I was like, I'm pretty sure if I get cancer, it's from that bucket. I'll never use it again. So we just learned to clean the screens right away. So we had a screen station and then our screen reclaim. So I had a separate little work desk. And at this point, we're buying product. We're buying in 55-gallon drums. And I think Ulano gave us an air delivery method. So it just kind of came out through squirt guns. I plumbed it in both directions. So you had press wipe that went to this table, and then press wipe that also went to the reclaim area. But as soon as the screens came off, the ink gets carded. And we bought, at the time, all the Borders bookstores are going out of business. I don't even know if you remember that. I guess it was around 2008 or 2009. Yeah. They had these reshelving carts that you put books on. You roll them out to reshelve at the store. You can put 4 gallons on each of those shelves. So we had our process colors on there, and then our cotton white, poly white, low bleed white, athletic gloss white. That was just where we could roll it to the press and roll it back to that table, scrape the inks off, back in the bucket, wipe out the screen, and then the screen can sit for days. And we're not worried about the stain locking in there. We also learned not to use aerosol sprays for press opener because the aerosol propellant locks in red and black pigment to your mesh. So again, that was trial and error, but we switched to pump sprayers for the on-press press wipe to get around that. But I think other ones will come back up.
There's a couple good ones, but
backtracking, Andy, you brought up about the dye migration thing. So when I did that post, I was at Orange County Airport, first at the gate, did part of it, and then I was screenshotting it while I was in line, get on the plane, and then I posted it right before we took off. So if it looks shitty, that's why. I'm doing this where I can. But the easiest thing to understand what you're going to print on, if you have a new shirt and it's a poly blend and you're not sure if you can get away with a cotton ink, I mean, ideally cotton ink prints the easiest, it's the cheapest. If we can print cotton on everything, that's your most profitable model. But if you need a low bleed or need a poly, how do you know? Maybe it is a really good stable poly that you can get away with a low bleed versus a poly or even a cotton. The only way you're going to know is if you take I take the shirt that you're going to print so I don't have to throw away a test shirt. Usually the hem wraps underneath and you have the same finish as the outside. I put a little bit of clear reducer right there and then heat press that to a white cotton shirt or white Pellon, let that cool completely, and then peel part of it. If I see some of the dye from the shirt escape over, that indicates I'm going to need something more than a cotton ink. If right before I go to print on the press, I peel it completely and there's more dye or the dye is darker, I definitely need a bleed blocker, like a barrier gray or maybe a more aggressive poly ink to fight that dye migration. But if I'm getting clear on both pulls, home run. Now I can run cotton on it. I mean, there are some 50-50 polys that are very stable. I mean, usually the more you pay, the more stable the garment is. But there used to be more of them. And I feel like the 50-50s were way higher quality in the early 90s than they are now. I printed loads of cotton ink on 50-50s and didn't have any issues. I was surprised the first time I saw a mottled effect on a navy blue shirt where it was showing up to my white, and then I had to learn more about ink chemistry from that point forward. But just understanding your shirt, in my shop, I would be a different owner now than I was then. Back then, I was raised in a family where everybody runs businesses, and I was taught, it's like my way, the highway. I sign the checks, you do what I tell you. But once the millennial generation started coming to the shop, it was a much different atmosphere. When I threw my baby fit and hucked a can across the shop, one dude was like, "Hey man, I've got anger issues. I think that's going to set me off. I don't think I can work here." I'm like, I can't hire a graphic designer that fast. I need you to just stay here. But I needed to come up with ways that if a job went wrong and I go out on the floor to go yell at somebody, like, why didn't you put the right ink on this? Why did you put cotton when this is the low bleed? I had to give them something to cover their ass. So what we came up with was just having a shirt history that you screen print onto your test Pellon. So on the manual press, there was just our histogram grid there. When the job was done, after the last shirt, they put on a white Pellon, print that. The catcher would go print that history on there, flash it, and then give it to the press operator to Sharpie in the information. But the other part was we printed little 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter test squares on a screen of just the a clear gel, and then just flash it the gel, cut those up into little squares, put them in a red Solo cup next to the heat press. If the job came back, the customer didn't like it, and I pulled the work packet from the file and it had that little test square stapled to the packet, I know the printer did all they can do. I can't yell at them.
They tried everything.
Diligence, yeah. So it's something we have to go back and like, all right, we need to talk to the shirt manufacturer, choose something better for you next time. Here's a discount. I don't know. We try to make it as best we can. But I realized at one point I had to start equipping my employees with ways to advocate for themselves against me. You know, I'm a hard ass, or I was. I didn't want to scare people away. It was crazy. They had guys that had tattoos up their neck, underneath their fingernails. And they tell me, like, John, you stress me out. I cry my way home every night. Like, are you shitting me? Like, I don't want that. I want you to like, working here. And I had to equip them to
humbles you real quick.
Just to cover their own ass.
Yep. I like how you full circled it back to self-advocating.
I didn't even mean to. That was amazing. Not that smart.
Perfect way to cap it off. We really appreciate you coming on and talking to us for a while. I mean, there's a million things we could talk about, and we could probably do another episode.
Yeah, John part two.
Probably will.
Dude, I've got to interrupt you real quick. I've got to send a shout out to Dom Versace at Superior Ink. He came on here and explained that, back when I had my skate shop, he came to me like age 14 or 15 and was like, hey, John, I'm starting this clothing brand called Neovolt. How do I produce t-shirts? And so I gave him a list of things to do, walked him through it. And we talked on the phone back and forth, and he would come to the shop as he was learning to screen print. And when he came onto your show, he said that he wanted to take credit for, inspiring me to get back into screen printing because I was psyched on Dom. It's totally true. I remember talking to him on the phone when he was having a hard time getting multiple colors to register. And he's like, John, I can't get these. Oh, also, Dom talked different when he was a kid. He's like, hey, man, I can't get these colors to register. And did you buy that palette adhesive? I was like, no, I didn't think it was that important. So then he got it. Then we had a conversation after that. And I was like, all right, so Dom, now you need a business voice. Like, everybody has a business voice. When you talk to your suppliers, you talk to your customers, you can't talk to them like you're out snowboarding. Come up with a business voice. I don't think he remembers that part of the conversation, but I remember where I was on that. But
that's
hilarious. We're having that conversation and thinking like, man, maybe I should partner up with Dom and start another print shop. I'm driving to California to the old shop I used to work at to print shirts for my skate shop here in Colorado, 18 hours away. It doesn't make sense. I was turning them into surf trips. So at this point, it doesn't make sense. Then it turned out my brother was selling some used screen print equipment, and I ended up starting Airship again.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, let's all blow a kiss to Dom because he's a great dude.
Love that dude. I just saw him yesterday.
John, thank you for all that you give to the screen printing industry. The world appreciates it. I appreciate what you did for our shop. Thanks for coming on and chatting with us. We definitely need a John part two.
Yeah, and you should follow his Instagram too, because there's a lot of good videos on just like rad, cool prints from olden days and now.
Awesome. Thanks,
John. We'll see you, man. Have a good day.
You too.